I had been writing short stories here and there just for myself ever since I had gotten out of school. And I had, I think, 2 published ever. It wasn't a lot. I was just kind of doing it mostly for myself. And so when I lost my job, and I was trying to find a new job in tech, but it was when there were a lot of layoffs going on. Not a lot of people were hiring. And the only job I could find, I was pregnant at the time also while I'm interviewing. It was Christmas time. It was the worst time to look for a job, really. But I did get one offer, but the salary they were going to pay would barely cover childcare for 2 kids. I was about to have 2 kids. And so my husband at the time, we had decided, I'll stay home for about a year, take care of the kids, and maybe try to write a book for the first time ever. And, maybe the job market will be better in a year, or maybe I'll be able to have a book done that I can try to sell. So that was how it started. And I did not have an idea for a book at all. I started writing. I would not recommend this as a path, really, if you want to plan to write a book, but I didn't have a plot. I didn't have a story. I had nothing. I started writing that book just based on, I wanted to write about the Ozarks because I had moved there when I was a young kid, I think in 2nd grade. And it was a culture shock. Even though I'm from the Midwest, I'm from small town in Iowa, but moving to the Ozarks, it's a different world. And I always found it very unique and kind of creepy, and really interesting. So I just started writing about that place. And the main character, Lucy, came to me, and I was just writing. And I was halfway through that book before I knew what was going to happen in the story. And it was partly from a true crime that had happened in one of the small towns that I had lived in. Something came up from that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. I did not do really any of the things that are probably recommended that you do when you're writing a book, maybe especially your first book. I didn't do that at all. I was just writing the story. And I mean, obviously I went back and revised later, and I tend to be a little more methodical, when I'm revising, I'm really analyzing things a lot more. But when I was writing it, I was just writing, and I just went, and it just kind of grew as I wrote the book. And I don't do it that way every time though. That was how I did it the first time. And it ended up working out. I'm always writing about small towns, and the things that really fascinate me about it as a writer. I grew up in places like this. It's the interconnectedness of everyone and how that can really work in a story, with all the tension and secrets and the grudges and the loyalties. And that is stuff that you do see play out in real life in communities like that, where everyone has grown up knowing everyone else there their entire lives. And very rarely, an outsider will come in, a stranger will move to town, that sort of thing. And I just find there is so much that you can do with that. I was always just kind of a quiet, observant kid. And I didn't know it, but I was soaking up all of this small town stuff to use later. So it was really fun for me to be able to make use of that. Yeah, the next book is coming out in spring of 2024. Gosh, that sounds far away. Spring of 24. And right now it's called Safe and Sound, but that's been the working title, so that might change. But again, it is set in a creepy rural Missouri town with a meatpacking plant, which kind of plays into that. And it is 2 sisters wanting to get out of this dead-end town. When they were young, their older cousin was babysitting them overnight, and she was going to be the first girl, in their family to go to college to really escape this dead-end town. And she vanishes in the night, leaving behind this bloody scene. And now they're at this point where they're, wanting to get out of this town, and they're trying to find out what happened to her. So another missing person.